everybody, and welcome to the Macaw Podcast Universe. Would you like to tell the people what this is?
This is a podcast about movie franchises. So Micah and I watch a franchise and analyze if all of the movies work together, if one of them doesn't, why they do, why they don't. We like movies, and we like talking about them.
And guess what? We've covered all of Marvel. We've covered all of Mad Max. We've covered all the Shrek movies, and now we're finally on our fourth series, and this is the last entry in that series. It is Toy Story 4. And if you are just jumping in right now, everything I just mentioned is available on whatever you're listening to this on. It's all out there. So do this. Go back and listen to them if you haven't and you like it. And at the end of this episode, we're going to announce what our next series is going to be, which is kind of a long one. We were originally going to do a short one, a little trilogy that we're not going to say because we'll probably do it soon. But now we're doing a good old, well, here's the hint, folks. There's 10 movies in the total series because you have to include the extra spin-off movies, Jordan.
Yeah, but aren't there only...
There's 8, remember?
8, and then you add
plus 2. 10.
Okay.
So, so you can be guessing the whole episode just like, oh, what could it possibly be? So, but today we're finishing up Toy Story. I'm very happy with how the series has turned out. I think it is our best coverage yet, especially because of the kickoff with the first episode. Mm-hmm. And last week also, we talked about how maybe Toy Story is like the only perfect series when you include all entries. But, folks, I forgot about the Before trilogy by Richard Linklater.
Nerd.
Which is their romance movies.
Nerd.
And all three of them are really incredible and just build upon each other. But I think after finishing Toy Story 4, I told Jordan, I said, you know what? This is my favorite movie series. And I'm ready to stand on that as a personal favorite because I think every movie is absolutely perfect.
Better than the Dark Knight trilogy?
Oh, I always forget that because I think of Batman and I think of the whole Batman series.
This one I think is better because you have Batman Begins, Katie Holmes in it. I don't, not specifically her, but I feel like she was very typecast as a girl in a superhero movie. Yeah. And I don't think she had too much to do in the movie.
Okay. I haven't
seen it in a while, but a lot of it seems very generic to me, down to how she looks.
Okay.
Personally.
We'll cover that at some point, I'm sure.
That being said, I think it's still a good movie and she does well. Yeah. But I don't think it's perfect.
Well, and they do recast her, which is a little smudge.
Yeah.
Even though it was probably the right call.
I think so.
And then, even though I really love Dark Knight Rises, I think there's still a couple of goofier things in the movie.
Ooh, like what?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I think there might be a couple of... I remember
you hate Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
That is not true. But he does... I really like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, although right now he's doing weird stuff. But he starts the movie with a New York accent and does not end the movie with one, which is very strange.
He kind of has a weird way of talking, though. Have you noticed that?
I haven't noticed that. Expound upon it, please.
He just has an interesting way of talking.
Okay.
And I mean, he probably did try doing some kind of weird accent, and then throughout shooting, just went into however he talks.
Yeah.
But he's got an interesting way of talking, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just his how he talks.
Just, yeah,
I don't know where he's from.
I don't either. But I think Toy Story is probably the best. And again, I would probably put Lord of the Rings above it, except for the fact that you have to include the Hobbit movies. And I really don't like those movies. I haven't even seen the last one because I hated Desolation of Smaug so much. But at some point, I am sure we will cover those. And it'll be Jordan and I just freaking out for every Lord of the Rings original trilogy movie and then just dunking on the Hobbit movies for 2 hours each.
Yep.
But Toy Story 4, here we go. Are you still looking up Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where he's from?
When actors are so famous that their bios just don't make sense anymore.
What do you mean?
I like that most of the bios, when you look up, it's like this person is from here and their parents are this person and this person, and it says they're like basically a Wikipedia entry.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of the actors who are so famous, it's like from humble beginnings on the stage to here to now being currently in this movie. And it's like, I just want to like just give me the beginning of a bio of him. Like it should all be the same format on IMDb.
I agree with you. Yeah.
For sure. He's from LA. So
he's from LA. I would have thought he was an East Coast boy, although he could have done a New York accent better if he was an East Coast boy, I think. Interesting. Okay. Well, we're jumping into Toy Story 4, and here we go. This movie is directed by Josh Cooley. This is his first movie.
Ever?
But he's been involved in other Pixar movies, most notably the story supervisor of Inside Out. And then this is nuts. So the original story... original story by credit goes to John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, Josh Cooley, Valerie Lapointe, Rashida Jones, Will McCormick, Martin Hines, and Stephanie Folsom.
A lot of lobbying by people to get a credit.
Yeah, well, I think I can speak to how some of that breaks down. But for one, I did want to point out Rashida Jones and Will McCormick were writing partners. They don't have too much in terms of writing that's super notable, but we all know Rashida Jones from The Office and Parks and Recreation. Yeah, but I didn't recognize any of it, and I'm like, there's 7 writers, so I'm not gonna spend too much time. But Stephanie Folsom and Andrew Stanton did the screenplay of like the movie. So
you mean Toy Story 1?
Toy Story 4.
Oh,
this is all Toy Story 4 I'm talking about.
When you say the movie.
Okay. I'll explain that in a second. But Stephanie Folsom is doing the Lord of the Rings TV show that's coming out. She's written a couple episodes, and then she wrote some of Star Wars Resistance, which is an anime style retelling of Star Wars.
Is that coming out?
I think it's on Disney Plus.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I believe it's a retelling anyway. I'm pretty sure
cool.
It's like geared more toward like young kids.
Yeah.
But the art direction is very, very cool looking. But yeah, so basically I was listening to a podcast that was interviewing Andrew Stanton, who we know from Finding Dory and WALL-E, and another Pixar guy, and Stephanie, what was her name again? Stephanie Folsom. And they were talking about how this movie went through around 10 drafts and like 10 animatics. And I think we talked about this in previous episodes, but the animatic is basically them storyboarding and doing like a rough animation of the entire movie. So they basically made the movie 10 times, and then they settle on this one, and then actually like make the movie, if that makes sense. So the impression I got from this interview is like, all those different people I listed, they did either sections of the movie or like whole runs, and then by the end of going through all these different writers, like Stephanie Folsom and Andrew Stanton were like, okay, this is what we want to do, though, taking ideas, throwing them out. So it's kind of like, I got the impression that it's like, it's their story, it's their movie, but they have to give credit because a lot of the ideas wouldn't be there.
Okay.
And it sounded like Stephanie in particular really cracked a lot of the story.
Cool.
I think she kind of provided the like redemptive arc of Gabby, which I think is pretty crucial to the movie. And then I guess Forky was originally just a gag that was going to be in the movie, just like a funny joke. And then Brad Bird, who he doesn't have any like credits in the movie, but he's Pixar, so they're gonna
consulted.
Yeah. And he just kind of met with them, and he was like, guys, I'm just stuck on Forky. There's something there. I don't know what it is, but you got to spend more time on Forky. So once again, Brad Bird comes in, the superhero that he is, and like fixes it, basically. Because he's the key to the whole thing in a lot of ways, Forky, in this movie. So then we got produced by Mark Nielsen, who produced Inside Out and Cars 2, and Jonas Rivera, who produced Inside Out and Up. Music, Randy Newman. Cinematography by John Claude Kalache, who did the cinematography for Up and Cars, and Patrick Lynn.
That's the guy from the video. Oh, no, Patrick Lynn's the guy from the video.
Yeah, he talked about both of them.
He did, but he showed that guy.
Yeah, Patrick Lynn did Bao, the short before. What movie was that before?
Incredibles 2.
Incredibles 2 with the woman eating the dumpling.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did The Blue Umbrella, Up, and The Incredibles. So should we talk a little bit about the cinematography element of the movie?
Okay.
So in this movie, and I'll need to find it again. I just put my note away for some reason. There's a great video called The Real Fake Cameras of Toy Story 4 that I would encourage you to watch if you're interested, because these two cinematographers really Pixar in general has always followed the rule of we don't want to do things in camera that are not possible if this was shot in reality. And this movie in particular really takes that to the next level, where it is genuinely like it is real filmmaking, like physical filmmaking.
And it's interesting because of animation, you can do anything you want. You don't have to have the limitations of a camera, but that they consciously made the choice to do that.
Yeah, and I think because of that, this movie is so gorgeous, like up there on one of the most gorgeous movies I've ever seen, really, because they follow those rules, but then they have the beauty of certain animated things that you can't do in real life. Mm-hmm. So this movie has a 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio.
Oh, here's the ratios again.
So it's very wide, and if you look at the other 3 movies, they all have a smaller ratio.
Yeah.
So there's much more to animate, but it also makes it look much more cinematic.
Yeah.
And then the cinematographer was talking about how, like, in live action, it's lights, camera, action, the old adage. You start with lights, go to camera, then you do act. But in animation, it's camera, action, and then you do the lights last.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
And the Lynn guy, so not that guy, but the other guy did the lights. He was the director of photography for the lights.
Oh,
for the lighting.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then that guy was a cinematographer for everything else. And they were saying in the video that what's that guy's name? The other guy?
Jean-Claude Kalache.
So Kalache, he animated every light down to the light bulb.
Yeah.
That's how meticulous he was with the lights.
Yeah.
And the other guy, what was cool, if you highly recommend the video again, because the other guy, he's worked on a lot of Pixar movies as well. But one of his shorts is this. It's the blue and red umbrella. I don't remember specifically what it's called.
The blue umbrella. The blue umbrella. It's called. Yeah.
Really good short, but you, as watching it, you're like, these are like camera movements.
Yeah.
That are going on in here.
Like shaky cam.
Or and it's like
cam more, but
really, it's just a really interesting choice. Why would you do that? And then in the video, it shows him with a camera like on his shoulder, like jiggling it around.
Yeah.
As the computer is like processing it for how it would look, because he wanted the effect that like a human, like the human's perspective effect of how you walk, how your vision goes, kind of janky like that as you're walking and on a street with a lot of people and stuff like that. So I think he definitely, it sounded like he really pioneered camera movements in animation.
That's what it sounded like.
And they were saying, because he did Inside Out, and then so in Inside Out, when they were in like reality and the little, like in the world, the camera movements were very shaky. But when they were in the girl's like mind, the camera movements were very fluid. Because it's it's like dreamlike and it's emotions and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is why film is so cool.
Yeah. And speaking right to that, they selected real cameras to emulate in this movie. So they used quote, because they're faking it. They used a Cooke S4i prime and then anamorphic eye primes. I hope I'm saying those right.
So the Cooke one was the one that it was Bo Peep's perspective that showed more oval, like really.
So that's, I believe that is the spherical lenses, which I believe are the Cooke camera, were to represent Woody's internal conflict.
Oh, okay, so the
and
other
not
one.
wanting to change. and then the anamorphic were for Bo to represent the change.
Yeah, and you can see that. Sorry, burped. But like when they're having a conversation and you see it's showing from Bo Peep's perspective, the background is completely blurry and out of focus, and everything that is out of focus are like oval shapes. It's very subtle.
Yeah,
but then
it's very subtle. But
when it's Woody's perspective looking at her, it's kind of like you can kind of see everything for the most part.
I'm glad you remembered because I was trying to look up the difference, and it is very subtle. And I was looking at like side by sides, not of Toy Story, but of other things, and I kind of forgot what he said in the video about that. So I'm really glad you remember because I was having trouble doing it. And in that video again, it's called The Real Fake Cameras in Toy Story 4. He kind of mentions how like you might not actually notice it, but you feel it.
Yes, that was the big important thing.
And that's the beauty of it. And one thing I want to say, I think that this movie, after watching, this is the third time I've seen it, and I think that this movie marks like some sort of point in animation history. I'm not entirely certain what point, but it feels like it perfectly blended realism of like some of the stuff doesn't look like it could be look like you've said. It doesn't.
Oh, what you're trying to say is, which is true, this movie is completely real.
That's what it looks like.
This movie, I believe that toys move around, anthropomorphic, they're sentient beings because that's how real this movie looked.
Yeah, but what I think is really cool is, I'll use Good Dinosaur as a juxtaposition, and I want to state that I like Good Dinosaur, but I think this movie does a much better job of blending those two worlds of animation and realism.
Don't you feel like Good Dinosaur was more of an experiment?
I think it was. Okay. Yeah, it's almost like we should try the software, like all this stuff out, and here's like a pretty simple story that could have been better, maybe.
Yeah.
It's still a good movie.
Yeah, I like it.
But in that movie, it's like the dinosaurs and characters are so cartoony compared to the world that they do look like they're set in it.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, it perfectly blends. Like it still looks like Woody that you know from all the other three movies, but it looks like our world. But the blend is so perfect that you never your suspension of disbelief has never broken.
I would say the only thing that reminds you it's not real are the actual people, because the characters are toys, so they already look cartoony because it's a toy. But the people still, while the people look amazing and full texture, full life, it's just still cartoon there. But that's it, man.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else in that movie that is cartoony.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that this movie kind of marks like a pinnacle of like, okay, we can do that and we've done it. And it's so cool that, you know, it starts with Toy Story, and I think that this like period of animation starts and ends with Toy Story 1, Toy Story 4. Yeah. And now it's time for them to like find new stuff or like find different ways to animate. You know, it's interesting that you pointed out that Pixar's next movie is Onward, and it does not look realistic in really any sort
like
of
of course you still have the texture. Like I can look at it and still know how it feels. But no, I'm glad that they're going way off with the next one.
I hadn't thought of it till you pointed it out, but I think it is a good move to make, because I think people would maybe
come to
like,
expect that.
Yeah. But man.
But there's another thing in the video where you're going to talk about the split diopter.
Oh, I almost forgot. Yeah.
Is that what it's called? The split diopter?
Split diopter.
Diopter.
Yeah, split diopter.
So it's a shot where everyone's seen it if you've seen a movie pretty much. It's when someone's in the foreground and someone's in the background and they're both in focus, which just is not possible with one lens.
Well, specifically, it's when they're both in focus and other parts of the scene are out of focus.
Yeah, and you
can just go to like the infinity focus, and you could set a camera up and everything's in focus.
Yeah, so you can't really achieve what he just described with one, like just one lens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what it is the lens is split, and one catches the foreground, one catches the background, and then right in the middle there's a blur.
Yeah.
And it looks amazing. Probably one of my favorite shots in movies.
Yeah, you can see it in Jaws. It's used in Hateful Eight a couple times.
A couple of Quentin Tarantino's movies, actually.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Keep going, though. I don't want to cut you
so
off.
they do it in this movie, which is interesting because it's animation. They don't have to, what's the point? Like, they could just have everything in focus and you wouldn't know the difference. And this one is pretty, I'd say this one is more subtle than actual film. Because I didn't notice it until you told me about it. But in the video, it says that it's to convey Gabby's like you shouldn't really trust her.
Yeah, because you have this shot where Forky walks up to Gabby and he's like, when's Woody going to be here? And she was just painting herself in a mirror, and she turns and she says like, oh, he's coming any time. And you can see that right behind her, there's like a china plate and it's blurry. But then Forky's even further behind her, and he's in focus, and she's in focus, and there's stuff behind him that's blurry.
Yeah.
And I think, was there a tiny smudge? I think they even added the tiny smudge.
There would be.
Well, yeah, but it's animation. They don't have to.
But if they're going with that lens, they would do that.
Absolutely. It's crazy that they made that decision.
So it's to show a divide between the truth.
Yeah. And I think on that video, he hypothesized that it does not look natural when you see it in film. So usually it's used in a way that like conveys unease and whatnot. And so he was exploring what that meant to this story, which we kind of just discussed. But that's insane.
Yeah, it's just so cool,
and it's so cool, above and beyond.
And it's
what
exactly
you need to do.
Like what he said in the movie. It's what you're supposed to feel it. You're not supposed to know. Like, you're not supposed to notice that really, but you are supposed to feel it. Because like, imagine if, like, for the lighting for example, if the lighting was just a little bit different than what it was in the movie, it would make us feel different things. It's the same with listening to music. If you're listening to a song and you take one instrument out of it, even if it was like barely there and you actually consciously didn't know it was there, you would feel that something was missing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's cool because it's like art, it like tricks you into feeling something.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think tricks in a bad way either. It's like, because you have the story and it's a something that's originally written, and then you choose which medium you want to tell it in, whether it's still a book or not. And you can, oh man, I totally just lost my train of thought. This happens all the time. But anyway, so you have the story, and then
oh no. I'm sorry, Jordan.
I'm losing it.
No, you're good.
I'm losing it.
Yeah, I mean, let's appreciate this. You were on a roll of just like zing, zang, zing, zang,
it's too much to think about.
Well, this movie will...
Anyway, what you're supposed to feel and what they're showing you or what you're listening to in music, the feeling is also telling the story.
Absolutely.
So you're reading the words and you're feeling something because you're reading literally what it is. But when you're having it being told to you, shown to you, it's the feelings that are also telling the story.
Good. You got there.
I didn't think I was going to get there.
Okay, so have we wrapped up the cinematography there? Okay, just have a couple more notes for you. So the movie had a $200 million budget, and it made $434,038,008, and a worldwide total of $1,073,394,593, which leads me to a very weird thing that happened this year. There's still a couple notes after this, but...
You said they were shorter.
I know, but I wanted to mention this. There was this weird thing that was happening when this movie came out, where I remember seeing articles where it was like, Toy Story 4 is underperforming. Like, it was supposed to make like anywhere from 150 to 179 this opening weekend, and it's making like 129, I think, on its opening weekend. And there's just weird... I just don't know what people are talking about, where people started talking about like franchise fatigue and how like this year with Avengers Endgame coming out and capping that, like people are like done with franchises because Men in Black 4 didn't do well, and like Hobbs and Shaw underperformed and stuff. But frankly, this movie didn't underperform. It made over $1 billion. I think that's a stupid hypothesis.
So you think this started that conversation?
I think, this one did, because it was this, and then Godzilla as well was underperforming. So all these movies were underperforming. But if you look at them, which this is something I remember David Sims writing in response to it, film critic at The Atlantic, he was saying how it's like, yeah, but if you look at the successful franchise films, which he included Toy Story, and I do too, because it made $1 billion. It's dumb to say that it's not doing well. The the ones that are written well and are good movies, people saw over and over and over again. So Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man, this one. But the movies that like critically and audience-wise didn't do well, people didn't go see a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So it's not franchise fatigue. It's just telling the filmmakers, actually, if you don't write it well, we don't want to go see it just because it says Men in Black on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually kind of cool this year that it's encouraging studios to be like, I guess if we just slap Godzilla on a movie, it doesn't mean people are going to see it. We have to make a good movie.
I feel like now more than ever we live in a world where, was I just reading something? I was probably listening to something. Mm-hmm. It might have been Comedy Bang Bang or something.
Okay.
Where like everyone is a critic now because of the internet.
Yeah.
Therefore, like now more than ever, people are probably paying more attention to how a movie is doing.
Yeah.
Whether they listen to it from a comedian.
It was Comedy Bang Bang, by the way.
Whether they hear it from like a comedian who's not getting paid to be a film critic, or like an influencer on Instagram who's talking about they just saw Star Wars and they loved it or something like that.
Yeah.
Like people are listening to stuff like that more. And then you have, I feel like people now more than ever too are probably reading film reviews.
Yeah.
More than ever because of accessibility.
Yeah.
Because I know back then people still like knew who film reviewers were and they were like big deals.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just feel like that's it's becoming very prevalent, which is like in one way really cool because people are paying more attention. But then that also means everyone, which is this part isn't bad. Like everyone has their own opinion, but everyone thinking that their opinion is fact is the problem.
Yeah.
But I won't get into that too much.
Well, it's ironic because we're doing a podcast about our opinions. But I do think we've both gotten a lot better at being like, oh, if you like that movie, okay.
Yeah.
Because now it is like everyone has an opinion and everyone gets so heated about stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I think it's okay that you don't like this movie. I get, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like one of the Toy Stories, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay. Well, you could be a Sid at least. Okay. So originally the movie was going to be directed by John Lasseter. And then eventually Cooley was set to co-direct with him. But then Lasseter stepped down because he was producing too much stuff and he had too much on his plate. And then a year following that, he got outed through the Me Too movement as like being pretty inappropriate with coworkers and stuff. And then he quit Pixar. And then there was a claim that Rashida Jones denied that Lasseter had like advanced on her inappropriately. Okay. But she said that didn't happen. She said the reason she left the project was over like ideological differences. And she was claiming that Pixar was not like people of color and women did not have equal opportunity at Pixar creatively. And so that's
a boys club.
Yeah, and I think they're getting better. I hope they're getting better. They are finally having the first like woman-directed Pixar movie, I think, in 2021, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. Glad it finally, I guess. It's kind of like, can't believe it took this long. I can't believe she had to do a short before she got to do a movie. Granted, the short's amazing. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's the girl who directed Bao.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then Andrew Stanton secretly was working on this movie before Toy Story 3 came out. And most people at Pixar didn't even know about it until it was announced because he was just like, something is...
And he didn't take any of those other two great ideas. And then he came up with this one, which is a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is my notes. And we are ready to rock through.
We're not.
Oh, no, we're not. Your notes now, Jordan.
Just a few. So all the regular players in this movie, but you also have some new players, like who's Forky, you ask? Tony Hale.
Oh, yeah.
Who's Tony Hale? Buster from Arrested Development. He's also in Veep. He's also in a Switchfoot music video.
Awakening.
And then he's in a lot of other random things. He's in Angry Birds 2. And, kids shows. A lot of voice acting. He's great. He's so funny. And then you have Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele. Yeah. So they're in it. They're the stuffed animal stuck together. If you didn't already know that one.
I love though that because I mean of course they do stuff here and there, but it'd been a little while since Key and Peele had been off air. So this to me feels almost like a reunion.
Yeah.
And it's great.
And then the little police officer girl.
Oh, yeah. Who's that?
Ally Mackey, who I've never seen her in anything ever. Apparently she is in Wrecked. Seems like she was like a main character. I don't even know what that show's about. But
I don't know
30
either.
episodes.
30? Wow.
Yeah. As well as other shows. And then we have Duke Kaboom. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Who did Duke Kaboom?
Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Who, fun fact, when I was younger, I thought his name was Canoe.
Canoe Reeves.
Yeah. So, I mean, guys, he's the world's sweetheart. Nicest guy.
Yeah.
Currently going through a Keanu-sance. Is that what you called it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's not just me. That's everywhere,
but I'm saying, is that what it is? He is, but before this resurgence of Keanu Reeves, he is Neo in The Matrix. Duh.
Mm-hmm.
He's Johnny Utah in Point Break. Duh.
Uh-huh.
And then is he in Dazed and Confused or the other one? Bill and Ted. He's in Bill and Ted, which is, seems like that's where he got his start.
I think that's his first like really big role.
Okay. Never seen it. Probably will at some point in my life and will be a little disappointed about it.
It's pretty fun.
Okay.
It's a fun movie.
Is that the one with Sean Penn?
No.
That's
You're
Dazed
thinking,
and Confused.
No, that is Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Okay, so there's like 3 movies that came out around the same time period that are all guys being stoners.
Yeah, but actually Bill and Ted are not stoners, and that's the only movie where they time travel. The rest they don't.
Well,
I
know that, but they're not stoned, or are they just nerds?
No, they're not. I think.
Or are they like Marty McFly?
I was actually listening to a podcast about it that had Griffin on as a guest, and he was just talking about how it's weird that they became like stoner icons because they never, they never like get stoned in any of the movies, and it's like never a part of their character.
Must have just been the time period, and they're just young guys, and these other 2 movies came out, and it's just like
I think it kind of gets lumped together. In. Yeah,
interesting. Also, should mention that Gabby Is Christina Hendricks.
Yeah,
who is in Mad Men, Lost River, directed by him.
Gosling.
Yeah, and then she's in Neon Demon. I have not seen her in much. Actually,
I've seen her in another movie though. A great movie that also has Ryan Gosling in it. Drive. She's in Drive.
Who is she?
She's I don't remember who she is exactly, but she's in the movie and she gets
she's in
spoiler
Bad
alert
Santa.
Killed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's the bulk of it though.
Cool.
Oh no, we already talked about her.
Well, and speaking to Keanu, though, I mean, how insane is it? And other people have spoken to this. This is not a new idea, but it's so insane that he went through like Bill and Ted fame. Then he went to like Matrix fame, action star, Point Break.
Yeah.
And then now he's in like this third wave of his career where it's like action/comedy guy who's like in all of this stuff. And it's just so insane that he has like 3 roles where he is so iconic, it's unbelievable. Bill and Ted, Matrix, and John Wick, where like people.
I would say this one too. People love Duke Kaboom.
I know Duke Kaboom rules.
Yeah,
but they're the kind of roles where like if they were recast in other movies, people wouldn't see it. They are making another Bill and Ted, but if they were like, and we're not doing Keanu.
Who's the other guy?
I don't know
who
he is. I don't know who he is.
Is Keanu Bill? Did I just guess right?
Probably you did. But we'll have to cover that series when that movie comes out.
Even though there's only 2?
Yeah, because there'll be a third one, and we'll go see it.
Oh, there's already 2.
There's 2 already, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the first one, they
time
travel.
Stoners.
First one, they time travel. The second one, I believe they have to like fight the devil in hell or something.
All right.
And then the third one is called Bill and Ted Face the Music. And what's cool that I learned...
I hope Tenacious D is in it.
Is that... I hope so too. Keanu Reeves has always... Like some people have kind of looked at it as like an embarrassing thing at different times in his career, and he's always been like, I had so much fun on that set. I love all those people. I want to do a third one someday.
Oh, okay.
And he's always pushed for it. And now that he has like the John Wick blank check, he's like, that's the movie I want to make.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I feel like the movie will be great because it's just like he's been wanting to do it for 30 years.
And if no one who listens to this podcast if no one has seen Point Break, do yourself a favor.
Just go watch it.
Oh my God. And not the remake.
No.
The Catherine Bigelow Point Break. Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers singers in it too. So
and then watch Hot Fuzz afterward.
Yeah. I forgot. So the one who plays Dolly, was in the last movie as well. She's like the one that kind of runs Bonnie's room. Mm-hmm. It's Bonnie Hunt, who was in Jumanji and The Green Mile and Rain Man.
And
She's
Hope and
great.
Faith.
I've been trying to figure out her voice.
Yeah.
The whole time, and I just keep I think because her profile picture does not have her in it on IMDb. I was just skipping it. But I'm good.
Okay.
Got to find out who Ted is right now.
So the movie opens, and it says 9 years ago. And well, actually, there's the Pixar logo. We hear thunder. It starts raining, and the lamp goes out in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it says 9 years ago. And
I've never seen this guy in my life. Also, Keanu's Ted.
He's Ted. Okay, so
I think that mystery has been solved.
What's the guy's name again? I mean, we may
Alex
as well.
Winter.
Alex Winter.
And look at this picture for Bill and Ted Face the Music. How cute is that?
Oh, I've seen that. Where
they look so happy to be together.
They look so happy about it. Yeah. It's
cute.
Gonna be fun. I'm excited to see it.
And I hope Keanu never cuts his hair and shaves the beard again.
I know. He's so great with long hair. Come on.
He is. Anyway, sorry. We can talk.
Also, did you know this? I'm sure at some point they're gonna change this. But as of right now, Matrix 4, which has been announced and everything, is coming out the same day as John Wick Chapter 4. That is currently what the studios are doing.
That's meta, man.
And I think they'll probably change because they don't want to bounce on each other. But I'm also like, just
double
do it.
Feature. Everyone is required to do a double feature that day.
I would love to do a double feature of that. That would be so much fun. And I think a lot of people would do that. I think they'd both just make so much money. But I could also see a lot of people are going to have to choose.
Logistically, it doesn't really make sense.
But as a movie fan, it's yeah. Okay, so the movie starts. It's raining. Already, you're seeing this rain animation.
And you're like, no, it's not animation. It's real.
The way you say that, it looks like you're kind of upset at how real it is. You're just like, it's real.
Don't try to fool me that it's not. That's why I'm mad.
And we see that RC is stuck out in the mud, and it's raining, and the windows are shut, and so Woody and Slinky and Bo Peep are trying to save him.
Yeah.
And the animation is so insane. There is a flashlight that they shine, and the rain is reflecting the light, which I'm like, what? How is that even possible to animate that? I don't get it.
I don't know.
Because wouldn't that take 100 years to animate that? I don't know. It's insane. But so they save him, and a car pulls up, and then basically we find out that Bo Peep is being taken
sold.
Yeah, sold to another guy. And the guy leaves his keys in Andy's house. And so he goes back inside, and Buzz is Woody goes down, and he's saying bye to her.
To Bo Peep, and they're under the car in the box. And I will know he's like, come on, we can get out quickly. Do it. This is our only chance. Get out. And she's like, this is the next step. This is the next season of my life. Molly doesn't want me anymore. This is okay, Woody.
And they do this great shot where they're looking at his hands as he's holding the box, and then it pans up to him, which they repeat at the end of the movie. And it's him having to decide.
Because she says, you can come with me.
Yeah, there's enough room in the box. And him having to decide, do I go with her or do I stay here?
And what's
it's
great
such
is
clear motivation.
Right at that moment, Andy runs outside and is like, Mom, where's Woody? So, and this is, did you mention that this is when Andy's a kid?
I didn't. I said 9 years ago.
Yeah, okay, so. Yeah. So he's a kid, and he's like, Mom, where's Woody? And it's like, oh, he can't go.
Yeah.
So, and it's what I like, too, is Bo Peep has an understanding expression on her face. I understand. Then she's not mad.
No.
She's like, I understand. And it's also it's your job. You need to go.
Yeah. But it's so great that it sets it up right there. It's this is the thesis of the movie. And we've talked about this so many times, but Pixar is just a master of that. They just are this is what the movie's about. Let's go.
Does every Toy Story movie start in Andy's room?
First one does. Second one does. The third one Does?
Yeah, because they're all in his toy chest.
Yeah, I guess they all do. Cool.
Cool.
That's very cool. So
now
happens,
we're back in the present.
Well, then they show
they do. Yeah, they do a montage.
This montage of Andy playing with the toys, and it's to the "You Got a Friend in Me."
Mm-hmm.
And right away in the theaters, I start crying a little bit because I'm like, it's hitting all the nostalgic strings, but it's not like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. There's actual they're actually trying to convey something. It's not just trying to trick us into feeling something, and that's another reason why you feel for it, I think. And it's also just filmed so beautifully. Like right there, you're like, this is already worth the price of admission.
Crazy to think about what the Andy looked like in the first movie. Looking at this kid Andy now and thinking about him in the first movie, and he's kind of freaky. And it's just like so cool to see the progression. Yeah,
and then it floats into you seeing him give
Bonnie
give Woody to Bonnie.
Yeah.
And then finally, the movie is starting now.
Yeah. So they're in Bonnie's room. They're in the closet, and they're all kind of freaking out because they're like, Bonnie's mom puts us in the closet when she's cleaning her room, and it's really funny relationship between Woody and Dolly. And Dolly's it's like she's been around the block for Bonnie. Like she runs the room. When that's always been Woody's role in Andy's room. So Woody's having a hard time giving that up, and it's played for comedic effect, not for actual tension. He's like, no, Zach, you're right. These are my guys. I know my guys. I got to calm down my guys. And as soon as that happens, and then Bonnie runs into the room, and she is starting to play town with the toys, and she's like, and there's the sheriff, and she takes the sheriff pin off of Woody and leaves him in the closet.
Yeah.
And you discover here that he has not been played with for a while.
Yeah. And what I really like about the scene where he's struggling with Dolly is that you see, and we talked about this last week, but you see that his character has changed. He's becoming less and less selfish. He's able to give up that control, but he's still the same character. He still has those things that he's trying to do.
He's still dutiful and faithful. And even when Bonnie doesn't pick him, it's like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, but he's not as selfish as he was in the previous movies. This movie, I don't find him to be very selfish.
No.
Because even when they're all mad that he wants to go back in to get Forky.
He does have a selfish
He does, but he is still trying to save Forky.
Yeah, but he's trying to save himself.
Yeah, well, and therein lies the movie.
Micah, I need you to understand this because we couldn't get Woody to understand up until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the end of this podcast,
I can understand who I am.
Yeah. So you find out that Bonnie's orientation for pre-K or kindergarten? Pre-K.
I think it's pre-K.
Her orientation for pre-K is today, and she's very terrified. As most children are, and her parents won't really let her bring any of her toys. But Woody sneaks into her backpack because he's like, "I'm gonna make sure she gets through this."
Yeah.
And so she goes to pre-K, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make some pencil holders," and none of the kids are sitting with Bonnie, and she kind of starts crying. And what I like is they from the last movie and carrying on into this movie, it's not out of character for Bonnie to be shy. It was shown that she's a shy kid. So it does kind of it doesn't seem like she's weak or a wimp or anything when she kind of starts crying when.
Totally. No, it works.
Yeah. So it's this is she's scared. She's just a scared kid, and that's fine. It's a normal thing that most kids go through. So as she's kind of crying by herself, Woody gets out of the backpack and secretly and covertly goes to the trash can and dumps it over so some crayons spill out.
Yeah.
And not only does Bonnie find the crayons, she finds a spork.
And then she creates Forky. And this is the key to the movie. And as the writers talked about it, they said because of him, that scene where they're walking on the road a little later, which we'll jump back to it, but the Forky and Woody and Woody having to explain what a toy is to Forky is that dynamic, and the existential crisis that they're both going through is so interesting, and it's so cool because we've never seen how a toy is made, so it's also just new for this universe.
Yeah.
And it's what in the world?
Yeah.
And then Woody's also grappling with, well, I'm trying to explain to you what a toy is, but I don't even know what I am anymore.
Yeah,
and
it's because Bonnie doesn't want to play with him anymore.
Yeah, and that's when he accidentally says, you need to be there for Andy. And then Forky's like, who's Andy?
Yeah.
But we'll skip back to that.
Yeah.
Comes home, Woody's there, Forky's there, and Forky proceeds to, because he's trash, he proceeds to try and throw himself away for the next 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, and the whole time it's Woody taking him out of the trash or making sure he doesn't get into the trash, and even to the point where, Buzz is like, Woody, do you want to take a break? Like, I can handle it for a little bit. And he's like, no, I need to do this. And it's like, he needs to do this because he has no other purpose.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like good storytelling because when he's trying to explain to Forky what he is, it's like he is helping him by trying to get him to understand. So he's doing a good thing, but as the movie goes on and things become more desperate and motives become more clear, it does turn into something that's about Woody, not about Forky.
Yeah, you're right, but so then there's this montage where Randy Newman just whips out a totally classifiable 100% banger of a song. I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away. And it is a 3-minute montage of Forky trying to throw himself in the trash and Woody preventing it from happening. And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I remember right when the gospel choir kicked in, when I saw it in theaters the first time, I was just like, oh, I love this movie. Right when that moment happened. Because something that we spoke to last episode, but not so much in this one yet, is that I think when Toy Story 4 was announced, there was a collective sigh where people were like,
we didn't ask for this.
It ended so well. And I remember watching the trailers, and I love Toy Story. I've always loved it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to see the movie because it's Toy Story, but I'm not really interested in seeing it.
Well, I'm just nervous. That's what I felt.
Yeah, I'm nervous, and I'm like, 4 is a weird number. It should have been 3. And it's like, what is this going to be?
Coming up to its release, you're kind of learning, though, that the people made the movie because there was one more part of the story to tell. And I remember as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, I trust them.
Right, which I was like, okay, I hope that they are not just pulling our chain, though, because that is something every interview they say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I believe sitting there, and I'm just like, I was afraid that it was basically going to be like their specials that they've done of Toy Story, like the half-hour specials, which are fun, but they don't have the like impact and high quality of like a Toy Story movie.
Yeah.
And then when that moment hit, I was like, okay, I love this movie.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I'm not worried anymore. I'm here for the ride. I'm not going to like be on the edge of my seat just hoping they can do something good. And then, as it's going on, you can kind of tell, I think, that like Toy Story, Woody's going to have to leave.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, oh, that's what they're doing in this movie. This is like next level stuff. They are going for it all the way. And I think it's beautifully put that, again, David Sims, that this feels less like another entry in the Toy Story series and more of a epilogue to the series, and just like a note about Woody finishing his story. And it's not so much about everybody else, and I think they do that well. And anyway,
I think you're right. I agree with you.
And then this is when Buzz's character arc begins, where Woody's like, I got to do this, and Buzz is like, well, what's this inner voice you're talking about?
Yeah.
And he goes, that voice that tells you what to do. And then he presses himself, and he hears, is like, Buzz Lightyear, Command Center, which will go throughout the movie where when he needs something, he'll click it, and it'll usually say something that actually winds up coincidentally being what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Which is a hilarious bit.
Yeah.
I love that. And then Forky jumps out the window while they're talking. They do the Jaws pull focus shot on Woody when he's standing at the window, where the background like falls apart, or not, it like zooms out while they're zooming in on him, but keeping him, it's hard to describe, but the dolly zoom in Jaws shot, look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. And again, you're like, so they went to all that effort to animate this physical camera shot. That's insane.
Yeah, but it's cool.
And then he jumps out the window, and him and Forky have that conversation that we previously talked about. And once again, animation, they're walking on this asphalt. I think this is when the aspect ratio, looking back on it now, like really speaks to like how why they chose it, because it is so huge and they look so small.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant, but it's so funny how Forky's like waddling and then he's skidding. Yeah. And then he's waddling and skidding, and I'm like, that's such an extra touch that I don't think any other studio would have cared to do. No,
they would have figured out an easier way to do it.
Yeah. And he remember, what were you saying, the carry me thing? Because he keeps asking him to
like,
carry him.
Carry me. And he's like, no. A couple seconds later, carry me? No. And then as they're talking, Woody winds up carrying him.
And then there's that great thing.
And that's when he realizes, I'm sorry if you've already said it, but throughout this conversation, he realizes, like, trash is great. It's warm. It's cozy. And Woody's like, that's what Bonnie thinks of you. You're warm and cozy to her. And Forky's like, oh, I'm Bonnie's trash. We got to get back to her. And Woody's like, that's not what I'm saying. But yeah, so then that, like, they get to the town where Bonnie and her parents are vacationing. And they pass by an antique shop, and they see, Woody notices Bo Peep's lamp.
Yes.
So they go into the antique store.
Yeah, and this is when we meet Gabby and Benson, her dummies that help her. Ventriloquist dummies that help her. And horror sequence again. Yeah. Those dummies are scary, and then they use horror devices again in filming them. And then the Shining music plays on a record as they're going around.
I love that. Such a great touch.
Such a great touch.
And the antique shop is bonkers because it is, some parts are really dusty, how the light's hitting so many different objects with so many different textures, and how that just plays into it, and dust particles floating around. Cobwebs.
I mean, all this stuff that I never... Again, another studio would have just been like, well, just don't have cobwebs up here. No one's going to even notice.
Yeah.
And something that I found pretty interesting was Andrew Stanton was speaking to, like, you know, when you're writing something like this, there becomes a tendency of, like, you have to top yourself. So you have, like, the airport scene in the second one, and then you have the trash compartment scene in the third one. And he was like, what I wanted to remind ourselves as we were writing it and working on it and all that stuff is that, and I'm sure a lot of this was focused by the director as well, Josh Cooley, is that some of the fun of the Toy Story movies is simple things like they're under a merry-go-round, and it's just a perspective you've never seen. Yeah. It's very simple, but it's that. Or like they're behind a wall where there's like plugs and stuff. Yeah. Like, and all of that stuff pops so hard because you haven't really seen that before. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to necessarily do this huge set piece and try and top yourself. Right. Because I mean, the carnival is huge, but I don't feel like they set it up like a huge set piece. No. But anyway,
so Gabby learns that Woody has a functioning toy box or voice box, and she came out of the factory with a broken one. Therefore, she's never had a kid. Yeah. And that's all she wants, of course, because that's what any toy wants. Uh-huh. So pretty much it's getting really creepy and really weird. They're basically like, we're going to take your voice box out of you. And so Woody and Forky start running away, and Forky, they get Forky, but Woody escapes. Yeah. And Woody doesn't he escape to the park like immediately?
I think so, yeah.
So love this whole idea too, like this reality of it. Woody's in the sandbox, and he's, like hiding, kind of looking up, and then there's a toy by him, and you start hearing kids, like a bus stops, and there's a toy next to him that's like, how many are there? Can you see? And so you're like, oh my gosh, there are just these like discarded toys at this park that kids have left behind. Yeah. And this is just where they live now, because everyday kids come to these parks and they play with these toys. Yeah. Love that other look on the world of toys. Yeah. So meanwhile, the whole time, Woody's trying to run away from all of the kids because he's just trying to get to safety. Yeah. And who does he see?
He runs into Bo Peep, and then the first time they see each other, it's just someone holding both of them.
Love it.
And they're looking at each other,
She's
but
like,
they can't react.
I love you. That's like what the kid's saying.
Yeah. And then they kind of escape together. Yeah. And then they're having this thing where it's like, oh my gosh, where's your kid? Where's your kid? Oh, are you lost? Are you lost? Oh, that's great. That's terrible. Yeah. And so they're having this whole exchange, and you can tell that she's like self-made now. Yeah. And she's like doing her thing.
And she's enjoying it.
Yeah. And she's she's like, I get to be played with when I want to be, and I don't have to, like, I get to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not collecting dust anymore.
And she doesn't really seem bitter. She seems kind of like sad about the whole not being with Molly situation anymore, but she doesn't seem bitter about it.
Yeah.
And so he also reunites with her sheep, and he meets some other new toys, like the police officer little mini police officer toy, which I think I definitely had something like that when I was a kid.
Officer Dimples McGiggles, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Polly Pockets.
Yeah, and the sheep are like driving around this like skunk remote control car, which is so funny. Also probably real, because this movie's real.
Yeah.
And then they do one of the funniest jokes in the whole movie, where these 3 G.I. Joe guys come up to
Combat
him.
Carl.
Combat Carl.
Played by Carl Weathers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they come up, they're talking to him, and they're like, high fives, and they're all high-fiving, and the one dude in the back doesn't get a high five.
Holds it up, and
they do that like 3 times in the scene, that joke.
Well, they do it once, but they do it like 2 or 3 times in the movie.
No, that scene they do it a couple
you're
times.
Right. No, you're right.
But they also do it throughout the movie.
Yeah. And then at the very end, at the end credits, Duke Kaboom drives around and does the Pixar lamp bounce on the eye, and then he gives Combat Carl a high five. So if you look at the credits, you can see that. Which
he
is very
finally
funny.
gets it.
But oh shoot, I had this thing that I wanted to talk about, but I lost it. Let's talk about Harmony, and then get to Ducky and Harmony, Gabby's toy.
Oh, the girl?
Or, person, I mean.
Okay, so you have Forky up in like this like china cabinet with Gabby, which is, you can see like that's where she lives. And that's when you have that perspective shot, that split diopter thing. And Forky's just waiting for Woody to come back. He's so naive. It's all fine. Like, he's coming back for me. It's okay. Because Gabby says he will.
Yeah.
And you're finding out that Gabby's, like we've said, never been played with. She really wants this voice box now that she has the opportunity. And then she sees Harmony, who is the granddaughter of the woman who owns the antique shop. Mm-hmm. And you can see she's looking at her like this is her dream, is to that to be her kid.
And if she just gets her voice box fixed.
Yeah. She will play with her.
Yeah.
And she'll take her home and love her forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that, meanwhile, all of the toys in the car RV are like still waiting for Woody and Forky to get back. Meanwhile, Bonnie and her parents are like searching for Forky.
Yeah.
But that's when Buzz jumps out of the window to try and go find Woody. And he ends up becoming a prize for one of the carnival toys. Like zip tied up on the wall.
Played by Bill Hader.
Played by the game guy as Bill Hader.
Yeah.
But zip tied up to the wall and is now stuck.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jumping around a lot, but
no, that's fine. But anyway, he escapes with the 2 characters played by
Key
and Peele. And they're
so funny.
They're so very.
It gets funny because he keeps playing, like, Buzz keeps doing his like inner voice, pressing his button.
Yeah.
And that's really ticking them off. Because they're like, you think you can just get out of here, all that stuff. Like, you think you're going to be the top prize. And it's like, Buzz isn't really talking to them, but they're just already mad at him.
Yeah.
So when he escapes, they like get dragged with him, literally.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're still mad at him. Because they're like, we went up there for 3 years, like all this stuff. And it's so funny. And then that's when Buzz finds Woody and Bo Peep and the stuffed animals. What are they saying? Oh, because they're all talking, and then they're like, Woody says, we just need to get back to Bonnie. And they're like, oh, you have a kid?
Yeah.
So basically like, yeah, if you come with me, you can be Bonnie's too.
Yeah.
So they're like, cool, we're here for this. So they have to come up with a plan to continue to get Forky out of the antique shop.
And then basically, so that we're not just talking through every little sequence, they attempt to get Forky. They fail in their attempt.
That's when Duke Kaboom comes in.
Yes.
And also Tinny.
Yeah, the tin toy from their
first ever short.
Their second short. Pixar Lamp was first one. So that was their second short of Pixar ever.
Was that 1988?
I believe it was. And that was who was going to be the original like star of Toy Story. Yeah. So it's cool that they put him in this movie.
Yeah.
And then we meet Duke Kaboom.
It's just to say, Tinny is on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And if you want to see the creepiest animated baby you've ever seen,
yes,
watch it.
Yes.
Anyway.
We meet Duke Kaboom, who has this hilarious backstory where this kid saw a commercial and he didn't jump as far as like the commercial made the toy look like it would go, but it's all in this over dramatic, like on a stage bearing your heart, like Jean, he would not play with me.
Yeah.
It's very over the top, and because he's a stuntman, it's perfect.
And I think I like that. I just think it's a nice, fun, interesting character touch where he's like Canada's top stuntman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Canuck
just
with the most luck.
Yeah, so I think that's just a funny touch.
Yeah, and they keep saying things like, "I could never make that jump," and then he's like, "They're like, yeah, but you could crash that." And not any old Duke Kaboom could jump, but not all of them could crash.
Yeah.
And so they attempt to get Forky. They fail. Is this the sequence where they like almost all like the cat attacks them and stuff too?
Yep.
The cat animation, mind blowing.
Yeah, it's cool.
So if not for the cartoony eyes, indistinguishable.
Yeah.
And there's dust particles floating around. Insane. If you take like the original Spud dog and compare the two.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I wonder if it's a little bit easier to do a cat because they're fluid.
Oh, it might be.
But maybe not. It could be probably just as hard.
Yeah.
But so they managed to escape, obviously, without Forky. So Woody is like, we are not leaving without Forky. And they're pretty much like, it's time to go back.
And then he's Bonnie like, it's the only thing I have left to do.
Yeah. And so then Bo Peep's like, basically to her, that meant, I am not going with you. Like, he's telling her that for the second time. So she just is like, fine. And she leaves with Kaboom and the stuffed animals. And I love, as they're leaving, the stuffed animal, I think it was Key, says to Woody, like, you crazy. Yeah. And then...
Do you remember Buzz in that, though?
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
So Buzz is still trying to convince Woody to like, it's time to go back, like they're about to leave. And Woody is just not, classic Woody being stubborn, is not listening. And basically, like, we can't leave him behind. And he goes back in and Buzz is like, well, there he goes. He just left me behind.
Yeah. And that's a pretty poignant moment.
Yeah.
But then basically he reasons with Gabby, and he's like, I need Forky back. And she goes, just give me your voice box, and then I can be loved.
Yeah.
And he empathizes and he goes, okay.
Yeah.
And then she gets the box and it's working. And he gets Forky out of there and they're getting ready to leave.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bonnie comes to the antique shop because she left her backpack there.
Yeah. And then Gabby attempts to
be played with,
and the Harmony just throws her away.
Yeah. For a second, it's like, oh, a toy. And Grandma's like, you can take it home. And then she's like, nah. Yeah. Throws her in a box.
And then Woody, still being his stubborn self, he doesn't want to see a toy in pain.
Yeah.
So he's like, come on, we'll help you out. And she's like, what's the point? And he goes, there's other kids. This'll work out. Come on. And so they're escaping. And as they're escaping, there's the great sequence where they jump over the Ferris wheel or through the Ferris wheel. And Duke Kaboom is like, I can do it. I can do the jump with my eyes closed. And then he just goes and he totally makes it.
And I love it when he makes it, obviously, but he breaks a light bulb. It's just like, that was a really nice touch. I liked that.
Yeah, and it makes that really satisfying pop that a light bulb makes. Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, but he's a toy, so he's fine. He's just plastic. Yeah. It's funny.
So anyway, doing all that, we did forget to mention that the Key and Peele characters have a very, very funny bit.
Yeah.
Where they are trying to get this key, and they just basically have a fantasy of attacking someone.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like, this movie is really about the characters who are in play.
Yeah.
So you still have all of the other characters who are on the RV, and it's like now it comes time for their characters to do something. Especially like Jesse.
Yeah.
So they are still not back on the RV, so they need to stall. So throughout the day, like Jesse gave him a flat tire. Yeah. So they fixed that. Now they're leaving. But now the toys are working as the GPS. Right,
which we had talked about how Buzz and then the GPS people, the only movie that does toys do not talk to humans in some regard, or make noises that humans hear beyond their own like batteries and stuff. The only one that doesn't do that is Toy Story 3, because in 1 you have what's his name? Spike? Sid. The toys all like basically attack him. In 2, you have Slinky barking at a girl who goes up to
the cone.
No. He goes up to him in the airport when he's in the dog cage to try and scare her away. And then 3, there's nothing. And then in 4, they talk to the parents and get them redirected. And that scene is hilarious.
Yeah. So they eventually get them to stop the RV. They get out of the RV to try and figure it out. No. They start playing with the brake and gas pedal, which is like, this is so dangerous and hilarious.
And one of the toys has kept saying how we could do something that would put Dad in jail.
Yeah.
And then finally, like, the police
are
trying to pull over their car. And he's the one that's, like,
pulling on the gas and stuff, like, doing the really dangerous part.
He's like, Dad's totally going to go to jail.
Yeah, it's really funny. So, they get finally pulled over by a police officer, which places the RV in a perfect spot for the awning to come out and for the toys to get on it and go back. Day saved.
Yeah, and then we have the moment.
Yeah.
The moment where Woody has to make the decision to go with Bonnie or to go with Bo Peep.
Which, at first, it's still just like, Woody's like, I'm going home. It was really nice to see you.
Yeah.
And it's just so well done because all the toys are back and he's walking over. Buzz is waiting for him in the middle of the awning and Woody just walks up to him and there's this look on his face where he's just like, I have to go with her. Like this is the right thing to do. But you can see that it's not an easy decision for him to make. No. And Buzz is just like, I know.
Well, Buzz says she'll be okay.
She'll be okay. That's what he says.
And you're thinking he's talking about Bo Peep, and then he's like, I'm talking about Bonnie.
Yeah.
And then he's like, go cowboy or whatever. And then you start tearing up here.
Yeah.
And we've done the shot where you see his
hands
on the carousel, and then the camera pans up to him like they did earlier. And then all the toys come out. They say their goodbyes. It's beautiful. And you're like, that was insane. That was so touching. Crazy.
Oh, we never mentioned that Gabby went with a girl that was lost. Sidetrack. So the whole idea is like, we're going to get Gabby to Bonnie and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So as they're going, Gabby sees a little girl that is lost at the carnival. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, this is the moment for her. So I like that she's really nervous about it, especially since she had just been rejected.
Yeah.
But I forget what he says. He says something to her, though. That was a really good line. Pretty much, though, that it's going to be okay and this is it. Just be yourself. So they position her in a perfect spot. The kid notices her and I just love it because it's such kid logic too in my mind because this kid is crying and scared, picks up Gabby and is like, are you lost too? Like, I'll keep you safe. And that gives her the courage to go to that security officer and tell her that she's lost. So that really great redemption. Yeah, for Gabby.
For the first time.
Okay, now we're back on the awning.
And then we're on the awning. They're saying their goodbyes. It's very heartfelt. It's beautiful. The music is fantastic. And then they're driving away. And then Buzz looks out and he says, to infinity, as he's looking toward Woody. And Woody says, and beyond. And that got me so hard on all the viewings, but this one too, I was just like, because you see that the movie, it's, there is the empty nester, like parents who are trying to figure out what to do now that their kids are gone, but there is also this like very beautiful thing about friendship that relates to me more, where it's like if you lose someone or if you have a friend and maybe you've grown apart or something. And sometimes it's okay to not try and hold on to that stuff so hard, especially like if you've grown apart with a friend. Sometimes it's okay to go, we had our time and that should be celebrated. But now it's time for a new time to infinity and beyond.
Even like bigger than that too, it also just means accepting the next phase of life.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what every movie is about.
Yeah.
Is accepting fate. Mm-hmm. And then this one is especially it where it's like, pretty much the whole time Woody's just been working.
Yeah.
And he's been working in his whole existence being Andy and Bonnie's toy. And it's finally like, you can be done. You can rest.
Yeah. It's like the Tony Stark. Like you can rest now.
Yeah.
And what's really nice that I noticed this time, and I could be wrong because I don't remember what it's like in the other movies, But the Toy Story clouds are so iconic.
Yeah.
It's like bright blue sky and then the Toy Story clouds. And this movie ends, if you remember, it pans up into the night sky and you're looking at a moon and a black. Are my glasses all weird?
Yeah.
It pans up and it's a night sky and there's a moon.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So it feels to me like it's saying like that's the entire story. Like
Yeah.
now that was those 4 movies were the day and now it's the night.
Yeah.
And fantastic. I love it. I think every movie's perfect.
Yeah.
If I'm forced to give a ranking at gunpoint, I would go from least favorite to favorite, even though they're all my favorite, and every time I watch one, I kind of feel like it's the best one. Least favorite to favorite, I would go 3, 1, 4, and 2 as my favorite.
And I agree with that, and not just because we're married.
No. I thought 4 was going to be my third favorite, but after watching them all again, it's just like that ending really is powerful. It's really, really powerful.
I like too how this one wasn't so much about life and death.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I mean, I guess the second one isn't either, but the first one kind of is. Like Sid's going to blow them up.
Yeah.
But the second one's not really. It's more about separation, like this one is. But the third one is like there is a life and death moment.
Uh-huh.
And I like that this one doesn't it didn't have that kind of conflict.
Yeah,
and
it's
I would
nice
say
that the stakes are emotionally really high, but they're not physically not so much.
Because Woody losing his voice box doesn't really affect him, especially now.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. But yeah,
yeah, it's fantastic. I mean,
what do you say?
What do you say?
Except talking about it for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we thank you for listening. There's a snake in my boot. Frankly, if you want to get your episodes early, sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/MicahMcCaw
series.
Well, hang on. I want to plug and then we'll go. Pretty sure the album's going to be released March 13th, my album Imbalances.
Yes.
And really you should sign up for Patreon. I'm going to probably put the album up a couple of weeks early for the Patreon listeners, and they can just download the album and own it. Because that's pretty cool. And then there's going to be discounts on merch. I would hope that maybe this week we have released a video and you can buy sweatshirts for the album and T-shirts.
Well, my voice broke.
And if you're a Patreon, you get discounts on both of those things.
Pretty cool.
If you're in the top tier. If you're in the $5 tier, not as much. But you still...
Yeah.
I still love you so much.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And then finally, what in the world are we going to cover next week?
Yeah, it's like, should we go big or should we go small? And we already said we're going big.
Well, we went big, then we went small, then we went big, then we went small, then we went big, then we went small. So that would mean we'd need to go big.
Big, like magically big.
Magically big. Jordan, but what could we possibly... Is it something we've seen before?
It's based on a book series.
Okay.
That is one of the most popular children book series, I would say, of all time.
So, it must be a series of unfortunate events. But I thought they only made one of those.
No.
Okay, wait, hang on. Spiderwick Chronicles? But they only made one of those too.
In a way, it's the series that must not be named. Do we title our series? That would be a good one.
Yeah. It's Harry Potter, folks.
Yeah.
We're doing Harry Potter. Yeah, and that'll be next week. And when we do a series, as we've done before, as you should know by now, it's not like we do Captain America and Captain America. We do the whole franchise.
So we're also doing Fantastic Beasts.
We're doing Fantastic Beasts. Of course.
Please pray for us.
It'll be in chronological order, so those will be last. But
so we're starting with the Sorcerer's Stone, and if we have any UK listeners, the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah. So the series that shall not be named begins next week.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. See you later.
Peace.
To infinity
and beyond.